Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought today we would have a look at kind of an answering questions part that the devs put out for the dev server itself and why they're making specific changes and kind of giving some thoughts on them, because obviously there's been a ton of different things which have been all over the place the last few months, so why not have more of them? And of course a lot of the questions, a lot of the answers are around the high tier stuff, because of course they are, because that seems to be always the thing that people really worry about, even though we know that it's pretty much impossible to balance high tier, and will be going forward, just how it has been the last, well, 10 years. The first question is, as the MiG-29 SMT is getting both our 73 and our 27 ET, will you consider adding more advanced missiles in the form of the AIM-9M to both F-16 and other similar aircraft? And the answer is yes. After looking into the situation, we've decided to add the following missiles to the following jets. So the AIM-9Ms have been added to the F-16C, the Barak, the GR-7, and the Aviation B+. It's also been added to the H-1Z, by the way, just to let you know. And then also the Mirage 2005F is getting HMD and 4 Magic 2s instead of 2, which it had previously. And then, of course, the AIM-7Ms have been added to the Barak 2. So there you go. It's I really am getting kind of bored of this whole thing. One of the issues that good old War Thunder has had for the longest time, it happened in ground like a year and a half ago, is where you had a situation where a lot of nations started getting like more armor for their higher end vehicles, and instead of just making it so, you know, people had to aim for weak spots, or people had to, you know, try a little bit harder, or, you know, had to play in different ways, instead they just added mega rounds to everybody, so the highest echelon stuff can just straight up pen through everything that exists in the game. And I feel like that's just what's happening now with aircraft, where every time you get a new variant of anything, it's just going to get newer and better missiles, and it's just going to be easier to play. So therefore, the stuff which is slightly lower in BR than it is just completely useless. Like when you think about the MiG-29 SMT and you compare it to the MiG-29, it already has the better radar. It already has the better engines. It already has, you know, the better maneuverability. It has everything better than the MiG-29, and now it has better missiles. So there is no reason to use the MiG-29. Absolutely no reason, because it's 12.0 and this thing's 12.3. And you will never, ever, ever get downtied in the MiG-29. Same with the F-16s. The F-16C or the Barak 2, which is 12.0, are mountains better than the F-16As. Like, just, it's not even a comparison. The only time I suppose you'd use the F-16A is maybe if you're in a ground battle instead of an air battle. And this is why, like, just making them, like, better and better and better every time, and also doing it in such small time periods, like, not even over longer increments, pretty much means, like, well, why do you bother, like, grinding out this vehicle? You know for a fact in, like, 3 months or, like, 6 months, it's just going to be neutered by something else. And that's kind of like the mindset that I've had with a lot of this stuff for a while now. So I play mostly, like, mid to high tier stuff. When it comes to ground and aviation, I just kind of spade as I go along. But you kind of, like, hit those areas where it's like, oh, okay, so I'm just facing stuff which is better than me in every way. Nice. And then you put up with it, try and do the best that you can. But at the end of the day, like, it's just the fact that the increments are so small in battle rating compared to these vehicles, even though they're better in every single way, is just nuts to me. So yeah, with one fell swoop, everything that was added last update is now completely useless. So I don't know how people keep up with this stuff. So then we have the MiG-29 SMT has R-73 as a rank 1 upgrade, the F-16 C and D have AIM-9Ls as a rank 3. Do you plan to change this? And the answer is yes, we'll be changing it. With the major release, the R-73 modification will be located in rank 3, and the MiG-29 SMT's modification window instead of rank 1. One of the things as well is, I'm pretty sure the MiG-29 SMT had stock R-73s. It could carry like 2 of them on the dev server. Don't know if that's still the case now, but obviously the F-16C couldn't. But my favorite thing is, obviously the person asking the question is like, oh well, you should put the AIM-9L at rank 1, shouldn't you, to match the R-73? No, no, the opposite is going to happen as usual. So now it's going to be harder to research through both vehicles, and therefore people are going to be forced to either GE them or just get smashed in the face over and over again and wonder why they exist. Hopefully, the only thing with this new kind of BR coming in is I hope it just takes a bit of pressure off the 10.7.11.0 area, and it can actually thrive. There's so many cool vehicles there, and unfortunately with the current matchmaker, like if you use like 11.0s or 11.3s, you just get straight up uptid every single match, and it's just awful. So then you have, will the Yak 141 and current MiG-29s receive the R-73 and R-27ET? The R-27ET is a super weird missile, by the way. I still think you take the ER, though, just because of the whole radar thing. Just so you have more strings to your bow. The Yak 141 has already received the R-27ET, and in the future, it might also receive the R-73. Having said this, we currently have no plans to add the R-73 and R-27ET to the current standard MiG-29s. Which is, I mean, you know why, right? Like, you know why? Okay, it's not a balance thing, all right? Because you know these MiG-29s are gonna constantly face the higher tier stuff. It's because they want you to research the new MiG-29, and they want you to grind it out, and they want you to get the new missiles. So then, like in 3 to 6 to a year's time, they'll probably give the R-73 to the other MiG-29s. It's what they do all the time. It's what they do with ground. It's what they do with naval, helicopters even. Like, they do this all the time. The reason why they're giving the R-27ET to the Yak 141 is literally because it replaces some of the missiles on the Yak 141, so it's not like you're adding missiles to it, you're just adding slightly better ones, and the Yak 141 is worse than the MiG-29. It can carry less missiles, and also at the same time, it is just a boat. So, it's amazing that the Yak 141 is in the game, the way that it actually is, just because of its performance in real life. And it's, let's just say, it's one of those vehicles, just like a lot of other ones, when it comes to War Thunder, where they've given it as many nice things as they could, based on its actual performance. But yeah, so yeah, it's of course they're not going to give the new missiles to the old stuff, because they want you to grind the new stuff. Like, I don't know, it's how it's worked forever and will continue to work. Like, I don't know what to say. The other thing is, I should probably just do this. Sorry, I didn't realize that. There you go. That makes it a little bit nicer to look at. So then we have the voice announcer Betty says altitude instead of altitude. Will this be fixed? Oh my me, what a shame. I don't know what we're going to do about this. Thanks for pointing this out. We've worked on this issue and have now fixed it. Fantastic. Well done. I know a lot of people are focusing on Betty and Rita, and that's completely fine. I find them kind of annoying, but I also understand that there is a lot of stuff that people like for realism purposes when it comes to War Thunder. I don't like being constantly berated at, especially when I'm hearing the RWR at the same time with the changes, and yeah. But at the same time, I feel like one of the bigger discussions is the American naval stuff. So American naval came in with its new sounds, and like most of them are okay, but there's some of them which are just awful. Like there's a dude who sounds like he's in a tin can, and I don't know who they've scripted or who they've paid to do the voice lines, but they're absolutely hideous. They're really, really bad. So I would rather that discussion happen instead of about Betty or Rita. Like you can hear the difference. There's like 3 people who do like the American ones, and 2 of them you can tell are okay, but the third one, just the inflections on like different words is just completely wrong. It sounds so amateurish. And it reminded me, there was a YouTuber, I can't remember what his name was, but he used to do like Men of War content. And then he decided that he was going to become a voice actor because that's what you do, right? Because you're like, screw it, I'll just voice act. It seems easy. I don't know, probably don't need a lot of experience or anything. And then he did like examples of like his voice acting, and he did like 5 variants of the same sentence, and they all sounded exactly the same. And he was supposed to be doing like this grueling orc voice, but he just did the same thing 5 times, and it was just awful. And that to me, kind of like when I listened to like the American naval stuff, that is what I heard, and it just wasn't very good. There are no top-tier jets for Sweden and Great Britain coming this update to better counter the new MiG-29 SMT. Do you plan to add new top-tier aircraft for these nations? No, they will never get anything again. They are done. Finished. Kaput. Capiche? Of course they have plans. We have plans to add new top-tier jets for both Sweden and Great Britain this year. Stay tuned for the news. Yeah, they'll just keep adding power and power. You'll get your Gripen, like, because what are they going to add? The, like, 20th Viggen, and then it's just going to perform exactly the same? Or are they just going to add the AMRAAM to the Viggen and then just say C'est la vie? Like, at the end of the day, of course they're going to get new stuff, because everybody always gets new stuff over time, right? That's why I really don't like those types of questions. Because they're kind of pointless, because the answer is always going to be yes over a long enough time period. The only part of the question that's actually useful, or the answer that's actually useful, is this year. So we have 2 more updates for the year, maybe. So they're either going to come, in November or December of this year. One of the funny things is the last time they actually put out a statement like this, and it was around like update supersonics, was we got the Javelin with the F-100 and then also the MiG-19. So be careful what you wish for, I think is the verbiage here. The next question is, why is the OH-58 located at 10.3 when it has worse magnification than the AH-6 and has no miniguns to defend itself? Right, okay, number one, miniguns have absolutely no use in helicopters. The idea that people are using miniguns to defend themselves against what? AAs or the helicopters? What are you doing, you absolute mess? Like, nobody's using miniguns in these helicopters, especially when they've got access to Stingers and Hellfires. Like, that's just not happening. So let's just say worse magnification, okay? Then the answer. We've worked on this bug, and the magnification issue has been fixed now. As a result of this, it is now better than the H6's magnification. While the OH-58 cannot carry miniguns and Hellfires at the same time. Oh no, what a shame. The reason that the OH-58 is a 10.3 is because it has Stingers, countermeasures, IRCM, and a camera above the main rotor. These standout features made the OH-58 better suited to survive while in battle. Yeah, pretty much. Like, the vehicle, the only limiting factor of the OH-58 is how much ammunition basically it can carry. The fact that it can only carry either 4 Hellfires or 2 Hellfires and 2 Stingers. It has all of the other systems that make helicopters busted. So this thing is actually in one of the best positions for most helicopters. It might actually be a mid-tier helicopter that can work, which is very hard to find, because mostly the helicopters which are powerful are the starter ones, like the Alouette, the Scout, and things like that, because they don't necessarily have the AAs to counter them, and then also the top tier ones because of just the nuts amount of munitions that they have. The mid-tier ones don't really get to see a showing, but nowadays, with the research the way it is, maybe they have a chance. That would be kind of cool to see them come to the floor, so then we could actually balance them. The Harrier GR7 has been in the game for quite some time, but it still hasn't received the AGM-65G. Do you have this Maverick variant planned for this plane? The answer is we're researching the capabilities of this missile. However, for now, it's a bit too early to say whether or not it will come to the game. It will come to the game, just like everything does, eventually. The reason why they're putting that is because they don't know if it has some absolutely completely ridiculous ability, like it can fly itself around the moon and then hit a target from there. The simple fact is that they have added so many things to this game which are completely busted at the top tier of this game, and then just kind of thrown them in to see what happens. You know, there was something which I read once when it came to game balance and game design, and it was the idea that the best test server, this was actually one of the creative directors, or the creative director at the time of World of Tanks, said about World of Tanks. He said the best test server is the live server. So the idea is you throw these mechanics onto the live server to test them, because you get access to the most people using it, and then that gives you a good basis to balance it from there. He also said it takes approximately 6 months for something, once added to the game, to be balanced. So 6 months overall, most of the time. For if a vehicle is added after 6 months, it will be in a balanced state, because that's how long it takes to get all of the data, and also for it to kind of settle down in the meta. Now that sounds awesome, right? Like, 6 months, okay, that kind of makes sense when you think about War Thunder, and when you think about like BR changes, economy changes, different capabilities added. What it doesn't take into account is if you keep adding stuff on top of it constantly, which is what you have at top tier. So all of the stuff which is meta right now for Aviation, for example, at top tier, hasn't been in the game for 6 months, and now it's getting replaced by even better stuff, not even after 6 months. So when you just keep putting them on top of each other over and over and over again, it creates a complete mess, which is what you have right now at the top tier of the game. Now, the reason it's hilarious to me to think that they're not going to add in the AGM-65G, because they're now worried about, its capabilities, when that obviously hasn't been something that they've thought about for the longest time for a lot of other things. So, yeah, kind of sucks in that way. Currently, Mavericks and other fire and forget missiles hit tanks without causing significant damage. Do you plan any changes in this area? Currently, missiles with IR and TV seekers aim for a single spot on a vehicle. However, with the future, we want to make it so that missiles aim for a less precise spot located within a small radius of the vehicle's center. Yeah, so what happens is the missile or fire and forget stuff will always go for center mass. You can actually see this if you test it in test drive if you want. The missile will always try and go for center mass, which works most of the time, right? But the problem with that is especially on ground vehicles, let's say a gun or a breach or some kind of external thing gets in the way of that missile coming in, then it will only do damage really to that thing, and then it won't penetrate through and hit anything else. So what happens, for example, on a lot of MBTs is if they have their gun facing forward, and then they have their tank facing forward, the missile will come in like this and down, right? But then it will hit the gun and not hit the thing below it, because the gun is the center mass. So it'll knock out the gun and then just do nothing else. So hopefully in the future they can give it a little bit more variance, and then they can go from there. Would be nice. Question: do you plan to include Hungarian aviation in the future for the Italian tree, as was also done with Finland for the Swedish tech tree? It could offer some interesting opportunities, such as the Me-210C, L-39, MiG-29, and Gripen, as well as Mi-24 and Mi-8. The answer is yes, we do. With this major update, 3 Hungarian helicopters have been added. So yeah, the Mi-24s. It's not a surprise, they're going to do this. They're going to add as much as they can to Italy to make it useful and to make people play for it. I know there's a very small backlash, but it still exists. There's a backlash of people who really don't like the fact that Hungary is being added to Italy. That's fine. Purists can find windows, right? The simple fact is there's hardly anybody who plays Italy. There's hardly anybody who's played them for the longest time. They have some pretty fun vehicles in there. Why not try and get more people to play it? And the way that you do that is by adding other nations to get people more interested. If a bunch of the way that these tech trees always get added, have a look at Finland, right? So Finland, they add a bunch of vehicles. Some of them are unique, and then most of them are copy paste, and then they build off it there. So Hungary right now in the game, there's a bunch of copy paste stuff, and then you got the Chaba or the Saba, and then you've got the KF-41. right? Now, and then after this, what they'll do is they'll add a bunch of other vehicles later down the line, which will be more unique than the ones that they have in the tech tree. That's pretty much it. Like that's how all of these go. And the whole way that you have to look at this is it's good because it bolsters lineups and you want more people to play and enjoy the tech tree. Or maybe you don't. Maybe you just want to be a purist and you just want to be by yourself with and seeing absolutely nobody else enjoy your stuff, and you just sit there in the corner like with your toys and you're like, oh yeah, I'm really enjoying this. I have complete control of these toys. But yeah, is that fun? Or do you want people to enjoy? Do you want people to laugh? Do you want people to have a great time? You know, with the South African stuff being added to the British tech tree, I know there was some backlash from people that it wasn't its own independent tree, especially after Israel got added. But at the same time, do you think as many people would have enjoyed the South African vehicles if they were their own tree instead of in the British tree? And my answer is no, I don't think so. So from now on, I think the subtrees are the way to go. And it's just nice to see Italy getting a little bit of kind of a catalyst or a little bit of a shot in the arm so people can enjoy them. Because otherwise, you're just going to be sat there and the tree's just going to wilter away. You already don't see any Italian vehicles in the game. So putting in Hungarian vehicles in the Italian tech tree, you know, it'll be nice. And hopefully it'll bring them home or bring them back so people can enjoy them or not. As always, though, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Brendan Quinn, Vilneus, Character Fuel, Juan the Panda, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, Bareen, Peter Grayling, Alan Hacker, Sem Alslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R., and also Lafouche for supporting the channel.